already know, our legislature has said no more taxes or no tax increases. But what's being allowed to happen is we're seeing fees for different things going up all across the state. A couple of examples. One-time $5 fee to pay for a new license plate. They say that'll generate about $18.5 million. Increased court fees for divorce and related matters, expected to raise $11.2 million for the state. And they're going to double court costs for drunk driving and misdemeanor cases, and they expect about $2.2 million out of that. Why not balance some of this with the tax increase? Because we're going to need money we can't even begin to imagine before this year's out.
I know the court cost problem is going to cause other problems. So people end up not being able to pay the fees, the costs. They wind up back in jail. Yeah. It's never, and then they lose their job because they're in jail. And I don't think we need to have a debtor's prison. It's not good public policy. I do think it's the increasing fees, and I would like a comprehensive, list of all these fees. They're hidden all over in state law. So as a journalist, it's really hard to get a handle on all the fees and what what all has been raised. And they should have to report. So the state should have to report comprehensively what the fees are for everything.
I don't expect that, though. Do you?
No, but I think it's because it's a very disingenuous way of avoiding having the politically challenging, tax increase, or something else that's sort of more direct, and just raising these fees right and left, nickel and diming people so that they won't notice. The turnpike, costs are going up as well. So I think we should at least have the information as consumers, as citizens, to know what we're paying and what's being increased.
Yeah, the 17% increase on the tolls that have been proposed, it's contingent upon a settling of a lawsuit. It's that basically claims that the Oklahoma Turnpike Authority can't borrow money under bonding. But if that's settled, there'll be a 12% increase on January 1st, and then 2.5% increases the next 2 years.
But there's no doubt, is there, Charlie, that that's going to be settled? Really.
I guess, I don't know. I would think so. But this is the problem. When things are when needs are not being met, the government is borrowing money. And you can't keep doing that forever.
Mm-hmm. But you can sell bonds.
That's borrowing money.
You got to have a revenue stream to back them up.
That's still borrowing money.
Yeah.
Even so, in a pinch, what are you going to do?
Well, I think you may need to look at consolidating some agencies. We have OBNDD, OSBI. We have all these agencies that have overlapping, responsibilities, and I think, they should look a little harder at the efficiencies in the state government and see what they can consolidate and what does the state government really need to be doing that it shouldn't be doing.
But I heard somebody talking just the other day about the possibility or probability of having officers in state police cars furloughed so many days a week. Could that really happen?
Oh, sure. Yeah, the Department of Public Safety was $130 million short in funding, and even with the $140 million coming back in, it was, that was only going to be like $13 million coming back to the Department of Public Safety when they divide that pie back. So, yeah.
I just got back from a prison that was supposed to be, the capacity was supposed to be like 600. There were 996 women in this prison. And it was just that beds everywhere. They keep trying to look for more places to put beds, and most of these women were drug offenders. We seem to be, penny wise and pound foolish sometimes when it comes to these policies. I think if we find a way to treat people and keep them, maybe just sort of long-term solutions like that seem to escape us.
Will the state question address that, though?
It will. I'm going to get to that here in just a second.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Before
Let's get to talk about it.
Before I get into this, I do want to mention some really good news, and that's the announcement by Google. And as Charlie pointed out, it was a prior announcement. But anyway, they held a big get-together in Pryor, and in effect confirmed that their investment is around $2 billion with a B in Oklahoma, which will result long-term in revenue for the state, 400 jobs minimum. We haven't had news like this, it seems like, in years.
There's also some initiatives to recruit farmers in California to come to Oklahoma. There's some legislative action to try to send teams of recruiters out to California because they're having terrible problems in California, and it would be a perfect place to relocate here in Oklahoma.
But is there land available?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. There's energy and land and low-cost workers, and good training by Votech, and so there's a lot of advantages to coming to Oklahoma. I think Google's a good example of somebody taking advantage of that.
Yeah, it is good news. You're right. It's good to hear because there's certainly a lot of quality jobs are definitely needed in this state.
Oklahomans reportedly #1 user of payday loans. Few people have tried to get regulations changed or enacted and have failed. Will we see anything happen to tighten up payday loans?
I would be surprised to see that. I think it's been a problem for many years here.
I don't know what mindset would change unless there's a drastic turnover in the legislature in the
Right.
upcoming session after the election.
Well, Arkansas used to have a 10% usury law, didn't they?
Yeah.
And that's gone by the wayside, I believe.
We also have some tribes here doing payday lending, which is interesting.
I
think
didn't know that.
I think the bigger issue is just how we treat low-income people in Oklahoma because they're getting hit on all sides.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of costs that are rising, and there's really no accommodation for people that don't make a lot of money. I don't know how people in Tulsa live, with the rising utility rates and everything but gasoline has gone up.
Hold on, that's coming. Number 6 on this list, and I want to get to this because I qualify, obviously. Oklahoma's obesity rate now ranks us at number 8 nationally. People like chunky cheese here. We waddle into the store and we buy more, put on the pounds food. But now the doctor's tightening the screws and he's saying you got to lose some weight, you got to get things under control because at your age, not going to be around forever. So I've got to lose some pounds. But we got to get this message out. How do we do it? How do we get Oklahomans to pay attention to the problem of too many soft drinks, too much, in the way of fatty foods?
There's a report this week about a 1967 study by Harvard University that was funded by the sugar industry. And they basically said, hey, eating sugar is okay, but eating fat will make you fat. And so we've all spent the last 3-4 decades thinking, well, if we just avoid fat, we won't get fat, and we've eaten all these carbohydrates. So I think there has to be a little re-education as to what actually causes people to get heavier, because you can't eat bacon and eggs for breakfast is actually better for you probably than eating a big bowl of cereal.
Yeah, I read a book called The Big Fat Lie, and it was about that. It's portion control. It's not so much what you eat, but you're exactly right. Sugar and carbohydrates are way worse for you. But I think all our portions are huge. My husband and I go in a restaurant and we can
bring the shovel,
divide it.
Myrtle. We're going to dinner.
See, it'd be a conflict of interest for me to
We got
discuss this. So
We got about 2 minutes, and it's really not enough, but we've got, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 questions we're going to vote on. Only 2 or 3 are getting any press. 776, to change so that executions that are constitutional, we can use that method. 777, the right to farm, sounds good. It is not necessarily good.
No.
It's getting a lot of press. 779, designed to increase state sales tax by a penny, money for education, sounds good, maybe.
again, you're hitting
not for cities.
the hardest, the poorest people are carrying that burden.
And it's not good for
Progressive,
cities either
yeah.
because they depend on sales tax.
Well, what
Right.
about right to farm? What do you guys think about that? 777.
Nobody's sure what exactly that's going to do. I have people that love it and hate it, and they're on both sides. So I'm really not sure what the impact of that's going to be.
I don't like anything that's going to tie the legislature's hands in the future.
Yeah, see, I had lobbyists for both sides in here a couple of weeks ago and challenged them. I said, you that support it are saying, oh, you know what, this is going to help the farmer. And you and I both know it won't.
No, it's actually supposed to help the international corporate farming interests.
Yeah, the big interests that come in.
And so they want to be able to come in here and pollute without having any pesky regulations. And I think if you care about your water and your air in the state, you would be wise to vote against it, frankly.
Which brings to mind something else, and we didn't even get into that. I wish we had more time, but we take bad water from wells, fracking wells in other states, and they bring it here to dispose of it. There's something else we ought to get into. What do we do with it? We pump it in the ground
And have earthquakes.
and have earthquakes.
You could sell it to Texas.
Hey, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
I hope you don't have to go back to prison.
I hope so. I hope so. There's not room for me.
No room at the end.
She'd write about it, believe me, and do a great job. That's all the time we have for this edition of Perspectives. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.